Is this what you're trying to do, bring violence?
This is today's Zimbabwe, and these are innocent victims of government-sponsored terror and police brutality. While the government blocks access to justice and the United Nations fails adequately to address the mass human rights violations, the victims have nowhere to turn. For a brief period of time, however, there was hope for them. While innocent men, women, and children feared for their lives, Southern Africa was building a house of justice, a place where crimes did not go unpunished and victims of injustice could turn with confidence. That house is now in grave danger. 17th August 1992 was a great day for Africa. Born of the visionary leadership of Southern African statesmen, the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, was established. Gave Southern Africa increased credibility as a region, promising socio-economic cooperation, democracy, and protection of the rule of law. Today, SADC is the most prosperous regional grouping on the continent. As a part of SADC, a permanent regional court known as the SADC Tribunal was established and inaugurated in Namibia in 2005. It is empowered to adjudicate legal disputes between member states and between companies and governments. Individuals have also the right to bring cases against their governments before the court when all efforts to achieve justice within their own countries have failed.
Where an individual has gone through the national courts and is dissatisfied about the decision in the national courts up to the highest court in that country, that person can approach the SADC Tribunal.
And if it found that the state was in breach of its obligations, if it had violated the SADC protocols, it could order that the state be pay compensation, that it be interdicted from carrying out the activities that were violative of its obligations. So it had pretty extensive powers.
The individual's access to the SADC court constitutes a key legal instrument that has brought hope to victims of the abuse of power in SADC countries such as Swaziland, Malawi, Angola, and Zimbabwe. Between 2007 and 2009, the tribunal adjudicated on about 20 cases.
80% of applications before the tribunal concern cases of individuals against states, and most of them complain about violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law.
The SADC Tribunal has an implied human rights jurisdictional mandate. And so you find that there are a number of human rights cases that were taken to the SADC Tribunal in respect of land, issues of discrimination, issues of torture.
The majority involved individuals taking the Zimbabwe government to court because of the breakdown of the rule of law and gross human rights abuses. Zimbabwe acted with impunity until the highly respected tribunal judges, drawn from across the region, stood up to the government and ordered it to stop brutalizing its own population. Zimbabwe lost every single case. After intensive lobbying by the Zimbabwe government, the SADC headed states suspended the tribunal in May 2011, and the judges were effectively dismissed.
To defer action against Zimbabwe, Summit in 2010 ordered a review relating to the role, responsibilities, and terms of the tribunal.
A review in itself is not problematic. I mean, we see international institutions reviewed all the time, but this review is coupled with an effective suspension.
This was as a result of Zimbabwe challenging the jurisdiction, the human rights jurisdictional mandate of the SADC Tribunal.
Zimbabwe persistently refused to comply with the judgment of the tribunal, and the SADC Summit of heads of state and government persistently refused to take action against Zimbabwe.
If you are a law-abiding head of states, why are you scared that people might want to go to another adjudicator, unless it is that you fear you are likely to fall foul of the law. There is now a real danger that the tribunal will either be shut down permanently or will no longer be allowed to take on cases brought by individuals or companies against their governments. What has happened in Zimbabwe could happen elsewhere in the SADC region.
Well, I want to take this opportunity to appeal to the SADC leaders to end violence.
The future of the SADC tribunal hangs in the balance. Without it, the region will lose a vital ally of its citizens, its investors, and its future.
The principle of individual access to the SADC tribunal has been one of the major burning issues, and we are aware that state delegates were not able to agree on allowing individuals to access the SADC tribunal.
I think it sends a wrong signal to the international community that SADC leaders have no respect for the rule of law.
A very strong message that the politicians around the SADC communities are not prepared to actually take themselves to task for failing to give the rule of law its rightful place.
As an African, I'm sad that we should give this image of ourselves that we are basically really not in favor of the rule of law. It is up to all of us to make sure that the SADC not only reinstates the tribunal, but also strengthens it.
Today, what we need to do is to ensure that the amendment process does not result in the weakening of the SADC tribunal.
The various key stakeholders must intensify their efforts to ensure that the ministers of justice, attorneys general, in their review process, do not repeal the principles of human rights, democracy, and deny access to the tribunal to individuals who want to bring cases against their states on those grounds.
It has to be run by an independent body which will be able to take individual governments to task if they are found guilty of human rights allegations.
We need the support of SADC citizens, civil society, and the wider community to save the SADC tribunal so that the rule of law, development, and human rights are protected throughout our region.
We want to see a court that is independent, that can have its decisions enforced at national level.
Citizens should have recourse. I mean, if you're finding that you're failing to have your rights protected and you're not getting access to justice at the national level.
A regional court like that is the only hope that a citizen has, that where his or her rights are violated by national authorities, that's where he can go.
People are at the center of human rights, and human rights are ratified by states in order to benefit people. If individuals of a SADC state were denied an effective remedy in their domestic courts, they had a right of access and redress before the now defunct tribunal. They should continue to enjoy such a right.
It is almost the beacon of light, in my view, to have in countries where our democracies are still new, that people are still unable to define exactly their roles. Where does their limit of powers end and begin? That if somebody is assured that if we can test those powers in an independent tribunal, for me, that is That is what the SADC tribunal will represent. It gives hope